Hi friends, how are you doing today? This is Ebenezer Falabi. I'm glad coming your way one more time to share with you today on this new episode of asset management. I believe the last episode was a blessing to you. We spoke about steps to maintaining wholesome relationship in marriage and the family. And today we want to pick one of those assets listed in the first episode, which is courage. And I believe this is going to bless you greatly today. Courage, what about it? It is an established fact that circumstances bow to those who are courageous. To the courageous, no river is too big to cross, no wall is too strong to surmount, no mountain is too high to climb, and no giant is too big to defeat. Interestingly, circumstances do not only bow to them, to those who are courageous. God backs them up and reward their courage with favor. But what is courage? Perhaps you are asking, what is courage? It is the quality of a confident character not to be afraid or intimidated easily, but without being incautious or inconsiderate. It is the ability to do things which one finds frightening. Mark Twain once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it." Unfortunately, many people walk around with their masterpiece in their minds, buried under wishful thinking, procrastination, fear, and excuses and intimidation. That is according to Miles Monroe of the blessed memory. He said, unfortunately, many people walk around, with their masterpiece in their minds, buried under wishful thinking, procrastinating, fear, excuses, and intimidation. And success will never befriend such men, who just walk around procrastinating, who bury their great dreams, their masterpiece under wishful thinking. Success doesn't befriend such men. We can learn very important lesson from the lepers in 2 Kings chapter 7, 13 to 16, verse 13 to 16. You remember the story of these four lepers. There was a famine in Samaria, and the enemies had placed siege all around the city, so there was no way for the people to come out of the city, and nobody could come in, and there was a severe famine. And the lepers thought to themselves that, what are we going to do in this situation? They were social outcasts, they were weak people, they were considered as people or that they were ostracized, they were outcasts. Worst of all, the siege was so strong on the land that they could not even receive daily provision. So this was the situation of the lepers. But they talked to themselves, why do we have to wait here till we die? So let us go forward, let us move forward. And they took that courageous step, and God Almighty turned their little step of faith, their courageous step, into a miracle. So we can learn a very good lesson from them, from these lepers. They were socially disadvantaged. They had religious disadvantage. They had economic disadvantage. They had cultural disadvantage. They had no money. They were outcast, ostracized. And worst of all, there was a siege on the land where they could have received daily provision. Interestingly, they had one thing, that they were so broke, that they were so poor. They had social disadvantage, religious disadvantage, economic disadvantage. They had cultural disadvantage. Nobody will employ them, to give them job to do. Religiously, they were considered unclean. They could not even come into the midst of the people, of God to pray. Perhaps God will heal them because they considered them unclean. Socially, they were outcast. They had to believe. They have to be living, in the colony of lepers. This was their situation. So, but as poor as they were, they had nothing, but they had one thing. Interestingly, and what they had was courage. In the midst of their ordeal, they took a courageous decision. They made a very strong, courageous decision. And this was their decision. They told themselves, no going back, no staying on a spot. The only option is to move forward, even at the detriment of our lives. That was the decision they made. in the midst of their struggle. Remember, they had disadvantages. So sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, if not because of this disadvantage in my life, my life could have been better. If I had people to support me, I could have done better. And sometimes we try to blame our predicament, our situations on other people. But these lepers, as weak as they were, these lepers are as disadvantaged as they were, as critical as the situations looked, and as hopeless as they were, and as weak as they were, they told themselves, they made this radical decision, a very courageous decision. They told themselves, not going back. We are not going back into the city, because if you go into the city of Samaria, there is no food for us to eat. So they told themselves, not going back. They told themselves, no staying on a spot. Sometimes some of us, we have stayed too long at a spot, on the same spot, and that's why we are not forging ahead. We are so afraid to make the first move. We are thinking, what if it doesn't work? What if I do not succeed in what I'm about to do? But the question is, what if it works? So it takes courage for us to see the miraculous happen. So this men made the decision, no going back, no staying on a spot. And the third decision they made was, the only option for them was to move forward, even at the detriment of their lives. That perhaps if we are unlucky, the enemies will see us and they will kill us. But we can't stay here. Why do we have to stay here till we die? So they moved forward. So likewise, we have to learn how to move forward. Just make sure you are moving. Leave a spot. If you can't fly, make sure you are running. If you can't run, make sure you are walking. And if you can't walk, make sure you are crawling. But you must ensure that there is a move, there is a progress taking place in your life. So though they were lepers and they were lepers, but they were courageous, they were resilient. They didn't entertain fear or intimidation to stop them from moving forward. They didn't procrastinate about it. They took the step. They took the risk to break into the camp of the enemies unharmed, and God rewarded their courage, scared the enemies away. Because they took the courageous step, God disarmed their enemies, and the poor lepers had enough to feed on. Sometimes we claim we are waiting for God to act, while God is actually waiting for us to act instead. Remember, I told us that the act of the apostles was written because the apostles acted. That is according to Smith-Wiggle's word. The act of the apostles was written because the apostles acted. Therefore, one courageous step can be all that you need to break forth in life. God knows how to send your enemies aback and give you that which you long for when you take a courageous step. It can magnify, amplify, and skyrocket your little courageous step. That's what God can do. He can help you magnify, can help you amplify and skyrocket your little courageous step. He can make a big thing out of your little courageous step that you're about to take. You're going to make a decision to take from today. Therefore, let's learn from these lepers, and you'll be surprised at what God can do with your little effort. So your courage is an asset in your hand, and then you have to take, just make a very strong decision today. Take the risk and move forward. Do not tell yourself it can't work. Do not tell yourself you can't succeed, because, it is about what you believe. If you tell yourself, I can't, God will tell you, yes, you are correct. But if you tell yourself, I can, God will say, you are equally correct. It's about you. It's about what you believe about yourself. But God is telling you there is possibility. You can take over those, the city. You can possess those things. The vision can come true. You just have to be responsible. Take a courageous step. Dare the consequences and just make a move. Remember the decisions of these lepers, no going back. So you tell yourself, I'm not going back. I've taken this step. I'm not going back. I must succeed. And they told themselves again, no staying on a spot. Why do we have to wait here, stay here till we die? No staying on the spot. We have to keep moving forward. We have to learn how to forge forward, forge ahead. And perhaps, in your struggle with life, you receive some punches. That doesn't make you a failure yet. Champions sometimes receive punches in their fight with life. Champions are not necessarily those who have not sustained any injury, who have not sustained, any wound, but they keep fighting until they actually get a trophy. Champions are not those who have not been knocked down, but they ensure that they were not knocked out. So no stopping on the spot, and the only option for you is to move forward. So even when you fail forward. When you fall forward. Take the risk. Be courageous. Be resilient about it. That is how to be a winner. That is how to be a success. That's how to achieve your dreams and your goals. So remember the lessons from these lepers, and remember that courage is an asset in your hand. Thank you very much for listening to this broadcast today, and I appreciate you so much. I believe that the subsequent one will be a blessing to you as well. Please share with others, share with friends, and families, and so that, and follow us on our YouTube page, Ebenezer Afolabi TV, so that you can receive more. God bless you, really good. Thank you.